Welcome back. I'm Dr. Lynn Fox, and we are going to look at an interaction, strand B, and it is called listening. I love this little statement that I've heard over the years, and it talks about listening. It says, "Nature has given to man one tongue, but two ears, that we may hear from others twice as much as we speak." Well, as teachers, we are in the habit of doing a lot of teaching and a lot of speaking and expecting our students to always be listening. Unfortunately, when we're giving feedback, we have got to make sure that we know what the student is saying, and that requires us to listen. The other thing is listening. You can go into communication skills and really dissect it, but I like to use this training that I learned from many years ago, and it used the word listen. And it reminded me, and I like to remind you as well as your students, that we don't all listen in the same way, even when we are doing good listening. So, if you take the word listen, you'll understand what I'm talking about, and you can, as I discuss or share the different ways, you can analyze which one or two strategies you use when you're listening. So, the first one is L is for leisure. Many people like to listen and perk up when it's pleasurable. There's humor involved in it. It's fun to listen. They love jokes. Other people, that's not really the way they take in information and don't really even appreciate it, much less care whether you use that. The second is I for inclusive. These are individuals that they learn because they see the whole picture, and they want you as a teacher, as well as when you're asking students to give you information, you want them to see the comprehensiveness of the information you're teaching and how it all fits together. Another way that people listen is through S, which is stylistic, meaning they're really interested in the body language and the visuals of how information is presented, mannerisms, and kind of a performance. So they really focus in and do perk up with these two ears to take in the information. The fourth way, which uses the T in listen, which is technical. Many of our students today are basically trained by computers and really getting down to the systematicness of, or the program of template of how to learn this information. And they want things like 1, 2, 3, 4 steps to do this. You do this and then you do that. They want to know how it is connected, but more from a technological perspective than, say, the individual that wants the whole picture all at once. And again, it's not just our students, but it's ourselves. And usually when you look at these 6 different ways, you realize that 2 of them are preferable for you. Unfortunately, in a classroom, you have students from all 6 of these. So I want to move right along to the E. And the E is what we call empathetic. This is where we actually feel what the person's talking about. The emotion. We want stories that reflect what's actually going on, and we're like right there with them. So that is another thing to take into consideration when you're trying to communicate and interact with the student and hear what they have to say, because they are coming from one of these perspectives, and yours may be just the opposite. As you can see, all of these 5 that I've gone over are quite different. And then the last style or technique for listening is in, and that stands for non-conforming or the critical listener. That's kind of the hardest one, because usually if they're listening for specific things, and if you make a mistake or you're off a percentage point, they are right at it, right on you. And many teachers are like that, and especially when they're in fields where precision and preciseness really, really count. Things like mathematics, and even with technology. I mean, you've got to do it a certain way. Now, you want, in reality and in your life, you want people that are coming from different perspectives, because they then see different parts of what one is trying to communicate. So just to recap on that, and you'll see this on the screen, is basically the L people, they want you to please them, keep them entertained. The I people, they want you to tell it all and get me involved. And then the S people, they want you to tell it with style and a lot of flair. The T people want you to tell them the information clearly, how and what it is that you're discussing. The E people want you to do it with a lot of feelings, and the N people want to make sure you don't make any mistakes. This is kind of a fun topic, and Sandra is going to bring more specific things to the classroom that will help you better communicate in this area of feedback. You need to hear what your students are saying, listen, especially to your low achievers. Your high achievers have a way of making you want to listen, or will be right there to make sure you do listen. So once again, TESA is all about everyone having an equal opportunity to learn and grow in your classroom. And in this case, you will be learning and growing about yourself.
This is Sandra Elliott again, and I'd like to give you some more ideas of how you might be able to apply this TESA number 11, listening. And as Dr. Fox already said, educators who have the burden of going in a classroom and seeing themselves as the disseminator of information, and they have the burden of managing a classroom, it's hard for them to listen. Students do not listen to each other, that's for sure. So any strategies that you can utilize that will help you really hear your students and help them hear each other will change the dynamics in the classroom. Our little book, Make a Difference in a Day, has 2 sections that deal with listening skills, and they're pages 49 through 52. The first one has to do with using I statements. One of the first pieces is to be able to avoid using terms where it sounds like you're being aggressive or you're blaming the other person, and to make I statements. So the first step is to try to make an objective observation and then state your feelings about it, and in a way that you're talking about the effect on you. For instance, if the students are all talking at the same time, you're saying, I'm feeling really frustrated at the moment because I know you can't hear each other and I can't hear you. A next one is to state your needs. I think what you have to say is valuable, and I'd like to hear various individuals. So I really need for you to stop for a moment and let's see if we can do this in a way that everyone has a chance to be heard. Then you make the request and you put it in the terms of an I statement. When I hear everyone speaking at the same time, I feel very frustrated. Every person in this classroom deserves the opportunity to be heard. So please remember to raise your hand and wait for me to call on you. And what this does is, for you as a sub in particular, it sets up a system. It's a rule that you give at the very beginning. So you're not constantly being outshouted or talking, or you're talking over students. No one's hearing the other person. And it does give an opportunity for you to better manage your classroom. Another piece in this that's very important is simply called active listening. And this could be done in an exercise like with pairs. The nonverbal message. This is a hard one because we don't see ourselves. We don't see when we frown or we communicate that we're not happy with a student's response, or students are picking up messages from each other. So it's important when you use this technique to pay attention to your body language. Then attempt to paraphrase what you think you hear the student saying. What are the benefits of this? Well, it validates students' abilities to express and resolve strong feelings. It promotes problem solving in a way that's useful in the classroom. And from my point of view, it's probably one of the most challenging skills that a teacher needs to develop and model for students. And on that note, I'm looking forward to moving on to the next interaction in TESA. And thank you.